Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back into the video today, and today the Jacksonville Jaguars have beat the Dallas Cowboys in Week 1 of the preseason, 28-23. This is a game where the Jaguars actually played some of their starters. I was actually surprised. I was really surprised that we saw Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk, and Calvin Ridley, who I think is going to have a huge year for the Jaguars, all play. And they played all their starters played 2 drives, and then once the Jaguars scored a touchdown in the first quarter and converted a 2-point conversion, the Jags took out their starters. Now the Cowboys on the other end did not play any of their starters in this game. Played a couple of solid defensive players. DeMarvion Overshown, a guy I really like, non-biased as a Texas Longhorns fan, by the way. He is going to be a stud. I'm not the biggest Cowboys lover, but I love the Texas Longhorns, and I do think he is going to be a stud for the Dallas Cowboys. I really do think the Dallas Cowboys have found themselves a stud in the 3rd round, getting DeMarvion Overshown. He's a true leader, and he's a hell of a player. And he had a really solid day in his first preseason game today. I think the Cowboys actually had a really solid draft as well. They drafted Mozzie Smith in the 1st round. I thought that was a really underrated pick. 2nd round, they got a tight end, which they needed, with Luke Schoonmaker, I think is his name. They also drafted DeMarvion Overshown in the 3rd round. And then someone who actually had a really solid game today, Deuce Vaughn, who they drafted in like the 6th round. And he's a running back. I think he's going to be a stud as well for Dallas. And I think Dallas actually had a really solid draft this year. And Deuce Vaughn actually showed some really good stuff today. He was their leader in rushing yards today for the Dallas Cowboys with 50 yards and had a touchdown. Let's go over it. So starting with the scoring summary, the Jags got it started with the first 2 scores of the ball game when Trevor Lawrence would throw a touchdown pass to Christian Kirk, a 9-yard touchdown pass. The Jags elected to go for a 2-point conversion. I wasn't watching when the Jags took the 2-point conversion. I watched a little bit of this game, but my guess is maybe there was a penalty on the extra point, and the Jags elected to go for 2, or maybe just the Jags elected to go for the 2-point conversion. I have no idea. But Trevor Lawrence threw a pass to Zay Jones for the 2-point conversion to make it 8-0. Well, actually, no, never mind, because I'm looking at the scores, and they were going for the 2-point conversion after every touchdown in this game. So I guess the Jaguars did not have a kicker available in this game, because after every the Jags scored 4 touchdowns in this game, and after every touchdown they scored, they went for the 2-point conversion. So I don't think the Jags had an available kicker in this ball game, because they scored 4 touchdowns, and after every time they went for the 2-point conversion. So second quarter, the Jags, C.J. Beathard, backup quarterback, runs for a 2-yard touchdown run with 7 minutes to go in the second quarter, and the 2-point pass conversion failed to make it 14-0. Then backup quarterback for the third-string quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, Will Greer, who actually had a really solid day, throws a 17-yard touchdown pass to Jalen Tolbert, who this was must-needed for Jalen Tolbert, because the only reason the Jaguars scored on that first drive was because Jalen Tolbert fumbled on the kickoff, or on the punt, and that wasn't very. It was not. Well, it was a great tackle by the Jaguars, but Jalen Tolbert did redeem himself with that touchdown reception right there. Brandon Aubrey makes the extra point, and it is 14-7. Then in the third quarter, that's the last score of the first half. Then in the third quarter, the Cowboys make it a 4-point game when Brandon Aubrey kicks a 29-yard field goal to make it 14-10. And then the Dallas Cowboys take their first lead of the ballgame in the fourth quarter when Deuce Vaughn has a 4-yard touchdown run, and Brandon Aubrey extra point misses. So he makes the 29-yard field goal, makes the extra point, but then misses the extra point. So I don't know. But then he also made his next extra point. So, I mean, not that bad of the day for Brandon Aubrey, their kicker. So that's 16-14. Then the Jaguars score a couple touchdowns. Nathan Rourke has a 4-yard touchdown run, so some quarterback touchdown runs today. And then they go for 2. Nathan Rourke throws a pass to Oliver Martin for the 2-point conversion, and they get it. So it's 22-16. Then Nathan Rourke throws a 21-yard touchdown pass to Quadre Allison, and the 2-point conversion failed, and it's 28-16. Then Will Grier throws his second touchdown pass of the day to John Stevens Jr., 15-yard touchdown pass, and then the final score is 28-23. So that is the scoring summary. Game leaders. So the leader in passing yards was for the Jaguars was Nathan Rourke with going 9 for 17 with 153 passing yards and 1 touchdown pass. For the Cowboys was Will Grier, who actually had a really solid day. Played the most out of everybody. Played more than Cooper Rush. Dak Prescott did not play. 22 for 31 with near 200 passing yards, basically 200, 199 passing yards with 2 touchdown passes and 1 interception. Rushing yards. How about the rookie for the Jaguars, Bigsby? Tank Bigsby looked really good in this game. So did Deuce Vaughn. Both rookie running backs looked really good. And he had 9 carries for 52 yards. And Deuce Vaughn for the Cowboys, who was their leader in rushing yards, had 8 carries and 50 yards for 1 touchdown. Leaders in receiving yards. So for the Jaguars was Harris with 1 reception for 42 yards. And for the Cowboys was John Stevens Jr. with 5 receptions for 56 yards and 1 touchdown. Going into some deeper stats, Trevor Lawrence in his 2 drives threw 5 for 6 for 36 passing yards, 1 touchdown thrown, and 1 interception. C.J. Beathard, the backup quarterback, threw 6 for 13 with 80 passing yards. And then Cooper Rush, who was the starter for the Dallas Cowboys today and their backup quarterback, also started a couple games last year, or more than a couple games. It's like 4 or 5 games last year. He went 10 for 12 with 83 passing yards and was sacked once. All right, rushing yards. Besides Tank Bigsby for the Jags, they also played Travis Etienne for those 2 drives, and he had 5 carries for 22 yards. And also Snoop Connor had 7 carries for 15 yards. And then for Dallas, also Rico Dowdle had 6 carries for 21 yards. All right, other receiving for the Jags. Besides Jacob Harris with the 1 reception for 42 yards, Elijah Cooks had 2 receptions for 42 yards, and Jeray Jenkins had 2 receptions for 32 yards. Calvin Ridley had 2 receptions for 21 yards. Snoop Connor had 2 receptions for 22 yards. Christian Kirk, the best I think Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley are both really good, but probably Calvin Ridley is the better wide receiver on the Jags. Christian Kirk had 2 receptions for 12 receiving yards and 1 touchdown. And then their starting tight end, Evan Ingram, was targeted to 1 time, but did not have any receptions. And that was really it for receiving for the Jags. Besides John Stevens Jr., Jake Ferguson, who could be the starting tight end for the Cowboys this season, but there's a chance maybe Luke Shoemaker might get the starting tight end, but I doubt it. Jake Ferguson will probably be the starting tight end for the Cowboys. Was really the only starter out there on the offense today. 3 receptions for 38 receiving yards, and then Rico Dowdle had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Dennis Houston had 3 receptions for 33 yards. Jalen Tolbert had 2 receptions for 29 yards and 1 touchdown. Simi Fehoko had 4 receptions for 27 yards. Malik Davis had 4 receptions for 19 yards, and Kavontae Turpin had 1 reception for 15 yards. So that was, and also the rookie Luke Shoemaker had 1 reception for 8 yards. All right, fumbles. Okay, so it wasn't Jalen Turpin that fumbled. It was It wasn't Jalen Tolbert that fumbled. It was Kavontae Turpin. So Kavontae Turpin fumbled, lost the fumble on the kickoff, and then Rico Dowdle lost a fumble as well. And then Daniel Thomas recovered. Daniel Thomas and Gregory Jr. lost those fumbles. And then for the Dallas Cowboys on defense, Devin Harper recovered a fumble that third-string quarterback Nathan Rourke lost. So the Cowboys recovered a fumble on defense, and they did lose 2 fumbles on offense, and the Jags recovered 2 fumbles on defense. All right. Tackles, Antonio Johnson was the leader in tackles for the Jaguars with 8, and then for the Cowboys, the leader in tackles was Marquise Bell with 10. Sacks, the Cowboys had 0 sacks, while the Jaguars had 4 sacks. 1 sack for Devon Hamilton, 1 sack for Ventrell Miller, 1 sack for Jeremiah Ledbetter, 1 sack for Yasser Ababuli. No, I did not say that correct. And then the Jags also had 7 tackles for loss, while the Cowboys had 2 interceptions. The Cowboys had 1 interception for Junyai Thomas, and then the Jaguars also had 1, which he also picked. That Thomas's interception was picked off on a throw by Trevor Lawrence, and then the Jaguars had one interception, which was thrown by Will Grier, and Christian Braswell was the man who intercepted Will Grier's pass, and he returned that interception for 1 yard. So yeah, that was really it for the game. I thought the Jags had a really good game, but I thought the Cowboys were really good. I thought some of their rookies were promising today. The guy I went on about, DeMarvion Overshown, he had 6 tackles today. Thought he looked really good. And yeah, using more thoughts on the game from today. That's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace out.